Oh, welcome into episode 4 of the Dodger Dan Show. And today I got some updates on the top available free agents for me, and it's not going to look like the list that I think most Dodger fans have. I don't mean to be different. I think they're just players that I feel like, given the price and value, could be really good. I had a question. Can Dave Roberts coach another sport? I think that he can. And then I'm going to start branching out into some other LA sports teams. Going to talk about the Rams and the Lakers just a little bit. I know that the football season is almost halfway through and that the basketball season just kind of started, but just wanted to offer some thoughts that I had on there as well. And I can promise you it's not going to be what you guys want to hear as far as the Lakers in particular. So with that, let's jump into episode 4. Okay, so as far as the top available free agents, I think it is well known amongst those who listen and tune in that I am a big fan of the Dodgers getting Juan Soto. And I don't want to keep on enumerating all the reasons, but again, as I mentioned in yesterday's episode, he's a Barry Bonds level of an offensive threat. And defensively, I understand the shortcomings. I think we can figure it out. All indications point towards him not joining the Dodgers, so I don't think people actually have to worry about it. But the reasonings that I've seen from Dodger fans, again, continue to infuriate me. Is probably a little too strong, but just frustrate me because, again, I think it is not the mentality that the team should have, at least the fans should have, on signing amazing talents. But again, it seems like Soto is not in the cards for the Dodgers, so we'll let that happen if it happens and talk about it then. For now, I do have some top available players on my list that is a little bit different than the video I made at the beginning of the offseason. At that time, I did mention Soto. I said Hazan Kim. I said Max Fried. And there might have been one more player. But I know that those are the three big names that I wanted. I have a big gripe against. Well, gripe is too strong. I have not been a big fan of the Willy Adames to the Dodgers rumors. I just think offensively, although he is pretty good offensively, I don't know if that's necessarily where we need to invest more money into. And defensively, I think Kim Ah-zong provides much more value. And I think given the injury that Kim Ah-zong had, we can easily go for a shorter term deal and not lock ourselves in. Whereas with the Willy Adames situation, it would be a 6-year contract most likely, 6 or 7-year contract most likely. And for the Dodgers, I want them to maintain as much flexibility as possible year to year to continue to revamp and protect ourselves against maybe a down year by Adames after having the year of his life, or just continue to have flexibility to sign big free agents that come up on the market. With that said, here are the players that I'm really interested in the Dodgers trying to acquire. So number one, Garrett Crochet. He has been a name that has been talked about since the trade deadline during the season this year. Didn't work out for a number of reasons. Mainly, Garrett Crochet was demanding a contract from whatever team traded for him. Did not have that opportunity, so the White Sox ended up not trading him. But I think this summer for sure, or this winter, he's going to have the highest value, 2 more years of a very cost-controlled contract for an elite talent. And let me show you the numbers here. These are elite numbers. You're not going to get this anywhere else, especially at this age. So I think Garrett Crochet for the Dodgers is a huge opportunity. And I do think we have the pieces to trade to get him. The White Sox asking price is a number of talented young infielders or just positional players in general. We already traded them Miguel Vargas. I think we have a number of players in the minor league system that we could easily trade for him as well. I know that we are reticent, and this just might be a negotiating ploy. I know that for now, Dalton Rushing, Jose DePaula, Alex Freeland are not on the table. And I know that from what I understand, the conversations start at a Joe Andrew Vargas, Emil Morales, Eduardo Quintero. So we'll see what happens with that. Again, I think this is all just part of the negotiation. Andrew Friedman trying to make sure we get the best price for Crochet as possible. But I think it would behoove the White Sox to trade Crochet to anybody. But I do think that the Dodgers offer a mix of prospects that should be very appealing to the White Sox. And again, these numbers for Crochet are absurd, and I think I would love to be able to grab him. A couple of the pitchers that I think the Dodgers should definitely look at are 2 relief arms from the Texas Rangers, David Robertson and Kirby Yates. I'm going to put up their numbers right here as well. These guys are nasty. Like, they truly have some nasty stuff. And in the event that we're not able to retain Blake Trinan. Maybe he gets a huge offer from somebody else, although I'm sure he would love to be back with the Dodgers, just to potentially mitigate against that loss. I think either of these guys would be huge additions to the bullpen. I do remember specifically a series against the Rangers in the middle of the season where I knew I did not want to face them in the postseason, and if they were to make the postseason, I just felt like they were going to be a problem because these guys were mowing us down, and their stuff is super elite. Like look at all the red on these graphs; it is insane. So if Kirby Yates and David Robertson are available, and we don't resign Blake Trinan, and even if we do, maybe just to add another bullpen arm, I think Kirby Yates would be awesome. I don't think we're in the market necessarily for Tanner Scott, which I think is fine. I think Banda and Alex Vesia for next year are perfectly fine, and so if we have an opportunity to get Kirby Yates or David Robertson, I think that would be a huge get for the Dodgers as well. And then the last player, again, he is the one that I have mentioned before, but I will continue to drive the Kim Ha-sung train over Willy Adames. Willy Adames, once again, is coming off his best offensive season in his career. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as what's to come, or you can look at it as a blip, an anomaly in his overall arc of his career. Now, this is why GMs make the money that they do, or president of baseball ops, because they more often than not will accurately predict which way that's going, and they get them at the best price available. Because if he continues to get better from here, this contract will look like pennies compared to what he's going to be bringing in as far as value to the Dodgers. However, because baseball is such a high variance sport, I feel like year to year offensive production, unless you're one of those just steady elite players, it can fluctuate a lot. And I'm not saying Willy Adames isn't great, but I don't think he's at the level of a Shohei or an Aaron Judge, where even if they're coming off of a bad season, I would still sign them to max money because you've seen over their career what they can do. And then defensively, Willy Adames is just not it. I've been saying it. I've been telling y'all his defense has gone down. This past season, his defensive run saved was measured at a negative 16. In Kim Ha-sung's last full season, his defensive run saved, 2023, was 15. Gold Glove year. So for me, I don't know if we're missing out that much offensively between Willy Adames and Kim Ha-sung, but defensively, I see it as a huge plus. And the fact that we would probably get a better contract for Kim Ha-sung because he's coming off an injury, which I can see the argument, well, because he's coming off injury, should you pay him? Understand that. But I think that's why we'd be able to settle on a more reasonable number between the two sides. That would be more palatable. And so for those reasons, I think Kim Ha-sung is my preferred target. So my current wish list, and this is ignoring the bigger names because obviously if we can get a Fried or a Burns, that's fantastic. But maybe some under the radar names that you guys haven't heard about. Garrett Crochet, starting pitcher. David Robertson and Kirby Yates, relief pitchers from the Rangers. And then shortstop / second baseman Kim Ha-sung from the Padres. The next topic I want to talk about is Dave Roberts. A little bit of a tangent off of his non-top 3 finalists as manager of the year this year. And I did the video earlier today around kind of a fraught system I think that we have as far as how do we determine manager of the year, coach of the year, because again, I think it just comes down to who did the general public think was going to have a good season or a bad season, and who outperformed that kind of prediction. Because I bet the Dodgers were on everyone's top of list of maybe making it to the World Series. And so in that, I can just say, well, they performed to expectation. But I think that really ignores the season that we had and how Dave Roberts had to manage through the ups and downs of all the injuries, players just platooning all over the place, having to really rejigger the lineup often, and just being buoyed by Shohei Ohtani and Teoscar Hernandez for most of the year, as many people struggled at different times. Again, injuries and whatnot prevented just a consistency that you want to see. And so I think given that, I think Dave Roberts did a fantastic job, and he definitely at least deserved a top 3 finish. Whether he wins it or not, that's not as important to me. But I just think the general process of how this is determined is poor. But that being said, I think given that we are in LA, we have just a bunch of sports teams to look at and evaluate the coaching. You have, even in college, a Lincoln Riley that's come under a lot of scrutiny. You have J.J. Redick with the Lakers, Ty Lue with the Clippers. You have Sean McVay and Jim Harbaugh for the Rams and the Chargers, respectively. And then you have Dave Roberts. And something that I remember a lot hearing growing up, referencing Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls, is that his big thing was being able to manage the egos, which allowed him to then coach the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe and manage those egos as well as he could before he left, and then came back to manage Kobe and Powell to those championships. And I think the question for me is, in a sport, or I guess in sports now, you have so many other coaches who can handle the tactical. You look at football, you have offensive coordinators who are running offenses all over the place. Ben Johnson basically runs the Detroit Lions offense. It is Dan Campbell who is the figurehead and is able to lead the troops, but Ben Johnson is the guy with the clipboard calling the plays. And in that same way, I think Dave Roberts could definitely coach other teams and really manage the egos and the personalities to victory in a way that I've seen many years with the Dodgers. Sometimes we felt like as fans that he came up short, or that he didn't do as good of a job maybe in the actual tactical nature of it. And we all play a results-based game where if he had won a lot of these World Series, we wouldn't have questioned him, but because he had lost so many, we had ill will and feelings toward Dave Roberts. But ultimately, I do think we land in a place where we understand that Dave Roberts is a great coach, both tactically and as a person. But I think the person-to-person thing was really clear this year, especially after we won the World Series, all the stories of players talking about the management of Dave Roberts, his style, his connection with the team. And so I think it just got me thinking what it would look like if Dave Roberts were to manage a LeBron James type of player, or if he were to manage a sport like basketball or coach a sport like basketball, where the individual athletes and stars make much bigger of a difference than in baseball, where one dominant player, heck, two dominant players like Trout and Ohtani, cannot necessarily lead a team to the championship. And so there's just inherently much more of a team aspect in baseball, whereas in basketball, you have the best player, you have a good chance of being in the playoffs, you have a good chance of winning the whole thing. And so I just thought about it a little bit. I think particularly, again, I have maybe a more anti-LeBron lean. And so I've seen him throughout his career as a bit of a coach killer. And whether it's a respect thing, whether it is unfair pressure that the media has put on him, some of it I think he asked for himself, claiming himself to be the chosen one and all of that. But ultimately, what are the reasons why he has been unable to maintain a coach for any amount of time throughout his career, with the exception being Eric Spoelstra, who outlasted him in Miami? It begs the question. And so I think I just got thinking about that this week, especially as the Lakers and JJ Redick got off to a hot start, had a 1-4 streak, and kind of started hearing rumblings about dissatisfaction and unhappiness and snappiness in post-game press conferences. D'Angelo Russell already being moved to the bench. So there's a lot of noise, I understand, but just got me thinking on, could Dave Roberts do the job on another sport with another team? And we'll never know, but it's a fun question to ponder and think about. And then for the last couple of topics, I just wanted to start giving my thoughts on some of the other LA teams around the area. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to be talking a lot of Clippers. I really do think the Clippers should leave LA. I know they're not going to. They just opened up the Intuit Dome. It's just LA is not a Clippers market. Clippers need to find a place where they can really be embraced and loved as their team. I just don't think people in LA are ever truly going to love the Clippers like that. But again, Steve Ballmer's got a ton of money, and if he wants to spend it the way he spends it here in LA, more power to him. I love watching him. He is fun. He is exciting. But right now, I want to talk about the Rams a little bit. I have not been particularly a big kind of local LA football fan, obviously, because growing up, I think we might have had the Raiders for a little bit when I was like a child, and then they left. So I haven't really grown a strong affinity to LA football. I've always gravitated towards fans. I went to the University of Michigan, so I have always rooted for Michigan players as well. But given that many of my followers and listeners are Dodger fans, it's not a stretch to say many of you are probably Rams fans, maybe some Charger fans, and then Laker fans as well. So I did want to just give some thoughts to that. I think the Rams are in a good position this year. I don't think there is a dominant team in the NFL outside of the Detroit Lions right now. Even the Chiefs, although they are winning, and you can't fully discount that, they are not playing in a way that I think any team should necessarily fear them. And so I think the Rams are in a position to potentially make some noise. However, the difficulty for them at this point is that I don't think the NFC West is going to have a wild card team come out of there. I do think that the NFC West is pretty much going to be a one and done conference division with the winner going to the playoffs. I see 3 teams making it. out of the NFC North. You have two teams, I think, out of the NFC East. You have one team out of the NFC South, 6, and then you got one team out of the NFC West. And so I just don't think it's going to work mathematically for them. Hold on. This is good radio. Yeah. So I think that loss yesterday was really bad by the Rams. The Miami Dolphins this year are not a good team. I don't even think that Miami offense is necessarily that strong of an offense at this point. Ever since the playoff game against the Chiefs and the Dolphins, I just feel like that offense has been a little bit figured out. I am not a Tua believer. I think there are ways that you could test Tua by forcing him to make throws that I just don't think he's able to do. And I know that the Rams don't have necessarily like a knockdown defense, but it was very disappointing to see that effort from them on Monday night, especially. A lot of stalled drives, a lot of mistakes, just unnecessary mistakes, penalties, bad snaps, weird. Like that interception by Stafford was just very weird. I just don't know what he was seeing. And so if you're a Rams fan, you got to be disappointed. It had an opportunity for the Rams to really be in that conference conversation, the division conversation. And the Niners are only going to get better. That's been proven over time. The Niners, after their bye under Shanahan, have just gotten better. And so that's an uphill battle there. The Cardinals look very good. Kyler Murray has really come around and has had a really good return season. And so if you're the Rams, I think you got to figure out that offensive line. I know there have been players injured, but at this point, week 10, you can't really have too many excuses. Everybody has injuries and players in and out. You just cannot have the miscues that the Rams had and think that you're going to make it very far in this season. And so division's still ahead of them, though. That offense, when it's rolling, can be very dangerous. Cooper Kupp looks good. Puka Nacua looks good. Kyron Williams look good. Blake Corum got in the mix a little bit there. But yeah, I think Sean McVay has to really make sure that they are clean on their fundamentals. Everyone knows what they're doing. And just play better football, because that was really bad showing for Monday Night Football. And lastly, yeah, Lakers. I'll be honest with y'all, I have not been a strong Laker fan since LeBron basically came over. And I can give more thoughts to this in the future. But if you grew up in LA at the time that I did, my first playoff series I remember is the Lakers versus the Kings when Robert Horry hit that shot. Like, I remember that moment very specifically. My dad was making the hoop, like the basketball hoop, outside in the driveway, and he had pretty much stopped watching because the Lakers were down by a ton. And then Robert Horry hits that shot, and it was a life-defining moment for me at the time. And I have loved the Lakers since then, through all the lean years when we weren't making the playoffs and Kobe was getting robbed of MVPs. And then when they won again in 2009. And then there was that dark period again where Kobe was kind of draining the resources from the Lakers. And, we were getting good draft picks. We were getting good players. It just wasn't working out. And then the LeBron era came, and I was so turned off because, again, if you grew up at the time that I did, LeBron and Kobe were pitted against each other, and you had to be in one camp or the other. Like, you had to be in one or the other, and there was no, I like both. And so I think because of that reason, I have always had a negative LeBron perspective or focus on him. And I can promise you it's just not going to change. And I'm okay with it. I'm comfortable with it. I know a lot of Laker fans have essentially made amends or reconciled. And because he won the championship, they've turned their mind around on him, which I totally get and I respect. That's just never going to be me. I'm always going to be, I guess, a fan of the Lakers once LeBron is gone. And people can say that's wishy-washy, but I guess for me, I think I'm standing on business. I think LeBron is a little bit of a poison to an organization, which for many years, it was a poison worth taking because it would lead to a lot of wins, a lot of domination, which I understand. But I think there's a little bit of a way that he goes about alienating teammates. There always seems to be a huge blame shift from LeBron where when things go bad, it's the other players' fault or a coach's issue. But then when they win, it's a recognition of LeBron's greatness. So I think I've always railed against that kind of narrative building. And maybe I should be more blaming of the media for writing those stories or crafting it. But LeBron has always felt like someone who bought into those kinds of narratives. And I think that's another reason why it kind of pushed me away from being able to really enjoy him as a talent. Now, I will acknowledge, I'm not going to put my head in the sand. LeBron's very good. He's great at basketball. I do think he's benefited a little bit from the changing of the eras and the way the style of the game has been played. But no doubt, amazing talent, very good at basketball. Just, I think LeBron, the person, ironically, not outside of basketball, but just in and around his teammates, some of what he puts out in the media has never rubbed me the right way. So that's my small Lakers outlook. I'll give more thought to it. And as the team continues to play throughout the season, we'll give more thoughts on the team. But for now, as we start to expand some of this Dodger Dan sports commentary out to the other sports in LA, hopefully you guys will continue to ride with me, be able to bring you exciting and engaging content. But that's it for episode 4 of the Dodger Dan Show. Remember to continue to like, subscribe both here and on Spotify, or if you're on Spotify, on YouTube as well, and share it with your friends. I appreciate y'all. Everyone have a great Tuesday.